My fiancée wrote me a text that said, "I found someone better. We're done." I said, "As you wish." Then I froze her cards, called off the wedding, and issued her a bill for $115,000. A week later, her lawyer was ringing me nonstop. "Hey everyone, I need your help before we start today's video. We've seen that the channel isn't getting as much attention as it used to, and subscribing is one of the finest ways you can help us. It's free, quick, and it helps us keep making great stuff for you. Your help means everything. Let's work together to make this channel bigger. Thank you very much. Let's get the video going now." Hey, Reddit. This narrative will make you doubt all you think you know about trust and modern relationships. It gets really messy, so get some food. I'm a 31-year-old man who runs a logistics consulting business. Until recently, I was engaged to the most ungrateful, crazy lady on the earth. I started my business when I was 25, and all I had was a secondhand ThinkPad and a lot of worry that I would end up living in my car. Step 1 of my plan for starting a business is to not die. Step 2, maybe make money. The first few years were quite hard. 80 hours a week, ramen noodles for every meal, and sleeping on my brother Diego's couch since I had to put the rent money back into the business. Diego is a 34-year-old man who works in construction and has no problem telling me what he thinks about my decisions. When I informed him I was beginning a consulting business, he said, "Bro, you're going to consult people on how to be broke, because that's the only thing you're good at right now." This coming from a guy who once used duct tape to fix a vehicle glass that hit harder than it should have. But approximately 2 years ago, everything came together and I got some huge contracts. It turns out that improving supply chains pays a lot of money. Diego's response to my first big paycheck: "Well, damn, maybe you do know something after all. Don't let it go to your head, nerd." Now I'm pulling serious cash. Like, don't even look at prices anymore money. Enough to finally get my own place, adopt my dog, Pickles, and finish the project Diego and I had been working on for 3 years. Restoring a 1967 Chevy Impala. Found it rusted out in some guy's backyard, and Diego convinced me we could bring it back to life. That car became our weekend therapy. Nothing like inhaling paint fumes and arguing over carburetors to really bond two emotionally repressed men. Diego handling the bodywork. Me obsessing over the engine specs. Took us almost 4 years, but now she's absolutely perfect. Midnight blue paint, chrome bumpers, and a 327 small block that purr like a very large, very angry cat. Pickles is a golden retriever who's about as smart as a box of rocks, but twice as lovable. The shelter said he was special and needed someone with patience. Turns out special meant he once got his head stuck in a cereal box and just accepted his fate instead of backing out. Honestly, same. That dog and I share the same brain cell and it's usually on break. I met my now ex-fiancée Anita, 28, female, 6 years ago. She was working as a receptionist at some stuffy law firm but dreaming of being an art curator. Girl knew everything about Renaissance painters. Could talk for hours about exhibition design. Had this whole vision of working at prestigious galleries. Problem was, dreams don't pay student loans. She was incredible back then, smart, passionate, could make me care about some dead artist's brush techniques when my idea of culture was watching The Office reruns. When I first introduced Anita to Diego, he pulled me aside and said, "She's way too pretty for you. What's the deal?" Classic Diego. Pickles, meanwhile, immediately loved her because she gave him half her sandwich without being asked. But here's where it gets interesting. About a year into dating, I made her a deal. Quit that soul-crushing job. Focus on your art history degree. Take unpaid internships. Network your ass off. I'll handle the money. Here's the key part, Reddit. I wasn't just being some generous sugar daddy. I'm a businessman. When I invest in something, I document it. Every major expense, every education payment, every career-building opportunity one funded, I had her sign loan agreements. Nothing crazy, just simple contracts stating the amounts and that they'd be repaid. Honestly, it was less about trust and more about making sure I didn't end up like those dudes on /legal advice paying off their ex's Pilates certification. She signed everything without even reading them. It's just a formality, babe. We're going to be together forever. She thought it was sweet that I was being official about our partnership. Some people write love letters. I wrote enforceable contracts with interest rates. Now, here's where one of the main characters in this disaster enters the story. Anita's best friend, Brooklyn. Yes, that's her real name. And yes, she's exactly what you'd expect from someone named Brooklyn. Think green hair, nose ring, and the kind of person who says yikes. Unironically, Brooklyn was getting her master's in gender studies and had opinions about everything, especially men and money. Brooklyn hated me from day one, not because I was a bad guy, but because in her worldview, any man was automatically part of the problem. She'd make these passive-aggressive comments during group dinners about latest-stage capitalism and financial privilege while simultaneously ordering the most expensive thing on the menu that I was obviously paying for. Diego met Brooklyn exactly once. His assessment: that girl has more red flags than a communist parade. The best part: Brooklyn lived in a studio apartment that her parents paid for while she pursued her academic passion. But somehow I was the problematic one for supporting my fiancé's dreams. We got engaged last year after 5 years together. I proposed at this gallery opening she'd been excited about for months. Had the ring custom made with a sapphire because she said diamonds were basic. Cost me $15,000, but seeing her face was worth it. Brooklyn's reaction to the engagement: I hope you know what you're getting into, Anita. Marriage is a patriarchal institution designed to control women's autonomy. Diego's take on the proposal: 15 grand for a rock. I could buy a truck for that. But hey, at least now you'll have something to repo when this goes south. For 6 years, I built what I thought was our future together. Once Anita quit her job, she fully embraced the lifestyle upgrade. First was the apartment situation. Her studio was embarrassing according to her. So I found this sick downtown loft, exposed brick, floor-to-ceiling windows, the works, $3,200 a month, signed a loan agreement for the security deposit and first year's rent, $25,000 total. Diego helped me move some furniture to the new place. His comment while carrying a $3,000 designer coffee table: this table costs more than my truck, and my truck actually does something useful. Pickles was fascinated by the new apartment, mainly because he kept trying to fetch his tennis ball off the exposed brick walls and couldn't understand why it wouldn't bounce back. Then came the car. I can't show up to gallery events on the bus, she said. Fair point. We bought her a BMW X3 with a $580 monthly payment. Another loan arrangement because she didn't have any credit. I signed with them. She signed the loan document. $15,000 over the lease term. Diego's reaction when he saw the BMW: nice ride. Too bad she'll probably crash it into a Starbucks while texting about art feelings. The funny thing is she always complained about my Impala taking up garage space at her apartment complex. It's just sitting there, she'd say. Why don't you sell it and get something practical? Should have been a red flag right there. The wardrobe upgrade was next level. Art world is all about image. So I gave her a $1,500 monthly clothing allowance. Nordstrom, Saks, boutique shops that sold $300 scarves over 6 years, probably $40,000 in clothes and accessories. Education costs were the biggest: art history, master's degree, specialized courses, conference attendance, networking events, $35,000 total, all documented and signed. Brooklyn was a constant presence during all this, and her commentary was something else. She'd come over to Anita's luxury apartment and lecture me about wealth inequality and how problematic it is that you can just throw money around while people are struggling. When I mentioned Brooklyn's visits to Diego, he said, "Let me get this straight. She comes to the apartment you pay for, eats the food you bought, uses the Wi-Fi you pay for, and then lectures you about money problems. That's some next-level audacity right there." When I pointed out that her parents were literally funding her entire graduate school experience, she said that was completely different because it was family money, not transactional relationship dynamics. Anita's sister, Megan, was equally toxic, but in a different way. 2 years older than Anita and somehow even more entitled. Megan worked some made-up job at a startup that sold overpriced candles or something equally useless, but acted like she was running Goldman Sachs. Diego met Megan at a family dinner once. His verdict: that one's got main character syndrome. Bet she asks to speak to managers at McDonald's. But Megan wasn't just commenting. She was asking for favors, too. Since you're already covering Anita's car payment, could you help me with mine? Just until my startup takes off. I always said no, which made Brooklyn go on rants about male financial control tactics. Anita's lifestyle was insane. Organic everything from Whole Foods, art supplies from boutique shops, gym membership at this place that had a spa and served free smoothies, meal kit delivery that cost more than most people's grocery budget, weekend trips to art shows in other cities, always flying, always staying at nice hotels. Brooklyn would tag along on these trips sometimes. For 5.5 years, this worked. Anita was building connections, gaining experience, getting closer to her dream job. Brooklyn kept poisoning the well with her feminist theory. Nonsense, but I figured it was just background noise. Looking back, I realized Brooklyn was probably in Anita's ear the whole time, telling her she deserved better and that I was using financial leverage to control her. Tuesday was supposed to be special. 6-year anniversary of our first date, and I'd planned something perfect, made reservations at this exclusive restaurant she'd been wanting to try for months. The kind of place where you need connections just to get a table. I'd also bought her this stunning sapphire bracelet to match her engagement ring. Spent 3 hours picking it out. Left work early around 4:00 p.m. to surprise her. Maybe we could grab coffee, talk about the future, just spend time together before dinner. Got to her apartment and she wasn't there. No big deal. Probably at some gallery event or meeting with her advisor. I figured I'd wait. Maybe order some appetizers for when she got back. At 7:30 p.m., my phone buzzed. Text from Anita. I found someone else. I want nothing more to do with you. Don't contact me. One text. 6 years, thousands of dollars, an engagement ring, a future we'd planned together. Ended with a text that was shorter than most grocery lists. I sat there staring at my phone for probably 15 minutes. My first instinct was to call immediately, demand an explanation, ask what the hell was happening. Who was this someone else? How long had this been going on? What about our engagement? Our plans? But then my business brain kicked in. Her message was crystal clear. Nothing more to do with you. Plus, don't contact me wasn't asking for space or a break. This was complete termination of our relationship. So I texted back, as you wish. I immediately called Diego. Dude, I need to crash at your place tonight. What happened? I read him the text. There was a long pause then. Holy, after 6 years and all that money. She breaks up with you via text. You dodging a bullet, bro. I put my phone on silent, opened my laptop, and did what I do best. Solved a complex logistical problem. I wasn't just hurt. I was about to become her worst nightmare. Yeah, I wasn't Batman. I was Bruce Wayne with receipts. Here's where my business background really paid off. When you run a consulting firm, you learn to separate emotions from practical execution. This was just another project requiring efficient resolution. First priority, credit cards. Logged into my banking portal and removed Anita as an authorized user from both cards. Deactivation was immediate. Any cards in her wallet were now just expensive plastic. Next, the BMW payment was due in 4 days. Canceled automatic payment immediately. She could figure out how to cover $580 monthly or deal with repossession. Since I co-signed, they'd eventually come after me, but I'd handle that later. Her apartment lease was entirely in my name since her credit couldn't qualify her for a studio apartment, let alone a downtown loft. Found the termination clause, 60 days notice plus 2 months penalty. Drafted termination email and sent it with timestamp. All the subscriptions and services. Netflix, Hulu, Spotify Premium, that boutique gym membership, meal kit delivery, organic grocery delivery, art supply subscriptions, changed passwords and canceled everything. Phone line on my family plan. Initiated removal process. Next priority, the wedding. We had our date set for October. Venue booked. Caterer confirmed. Photographer paid. The whole 9 yards. I called every vendor and can-led everything. Lost almost $18,000 in non-refundable deposits, but that was better than the $45,000 total cost of marrying someone who wanted nothing more to do with me. Diego was helping me make some of the cancellation calls. After I hung up with the florist, he said, $18,000 down the drain. At least you aren't married to her yet. The ring for the engagement was harder. That handmade sapphire worth $15,000 was legally mine until we got married. Conditional gift under state law. I called my lawyer about it first thing. Simple, Phil said. Engagement rings are conditional gifts. No marriage, no permanent gift. You have every legal right to demand its return. I sent Anita a formal letter requesting immediate return of the ring. Her response was predictable. You gave this to me. It's mine. I'm not giving back something that represents your commitment to me. Phil's filed a civil action for return of property. Judge ruled in our favor within 2 weeks. Anita had to surrender the ring or face contempt charges. Got my ring back. Sold it to the jeweler for $12,000. Still a loss, but better than letting her keep it. Then came the special part. I opened my filing cabinet and pulled out every single loan agreement Anita had signed over 6 years. Had them all organized chronologically with payment records and interest calculations. Total amount owed $115,000. I spent 2 hours drafting a formal debt collection letter. Listed every loan with dates, amounts, and current balances, including 6% annual interest as specified in the agreements. Attached copies of every signed document. The letter was professional, cold, and absolutely devastating. Demanded full repayment within 30 days, or I'd begin formal collection proceedings, including credit reporting and potential wage garnishment. Sent it via certified mail to her apartment. The whole process took about 3 hours. When I finished, I felt satisfied. Diego watched me work through the whole thing. His final assessment. Bro, you just turned a breakup into a business transaction. That's either genius or psychotic. Probably both. The silence lasted exactly 1 week. I figured she was probably living it up with her new man, thinking she'd successfully upgraded from me to someone better. Boy, was she wrong. Friday afternoon, my phone exploded. I imagine Nordstrom wasn't ready for the meltdown of a declined Princess mid-bag swipe. Someone somewhere definitely got a show. Text after text after text. What the heck did you do to my cards? I'm at Nordstrom and my card got declined. This is humiliating. You can't just cut someone off without warning. We were engaged. I never said I didn't love you. I just needed space to figure things out. You're being a vindictive. This isn't how adults handle breakups. Then the tone shifted to pure delusion. I deserve better than someone who would do this to me. And finally, Russell says, what you're doing is financial abuse. He's going to assist me get a lawyer. Russell, the secret person. I had a name now. I didn't answer her. Why would I? She didn't want to talk to me anymore. Did she? I was merely following her orders. The actual fireworks happened on Monday. She called me 17 times. 17. I let every call go to voicemail. At first, the messages begged, then they got confused, and eventually they went completely crazy. You're making my life worse. I have things to do. People are counting on me to be at events. My internship coordinator wants to know why I didn't go to the gallery meeting. What should I say to them? Russell thinks you might be breaking the law. Financial abuse is a crime that really happens. My sister believes you're simply angry and trying to get back at me for being honest about how I feel. On Tuesday afternoon, I got a certified mail receipt that confirmed that my debt collection letter had been delivered. My phone rang at 6 a.m. on Wednesday morning. Number not known. You're crazy. Anita's voice was so loud. $100,000. Are you crazy? I hung up and blocked the call. But the real fun didn't start until Thursday night. My doorbell rang while I was visiting Diego's house. I peeked through the peephole and saw Brooklyn standing there with a pen and notebook. Diego gazed out the window. Is that the communist with the green hair? This should be good. I opened the door, and she instantly started giving a speech that sounded like it had been practiced. She read from her notebook, I am disgusted by you. What you're doing to Anita is textbook emotional manipulation and financial abuse. I just looked at her. Are you reading that off of notes? This is not a joke. Because your weak male ego can't take rejection, you're ruining a woman's life. So, when your parents pay for your phone, groceries, car, housing, and tuition, that's family support. But giving my fiancé money to help with his professional ambitions is financial abuse. Yes. Because you are using money to make her do what you want. I had to laugh. You physically live in an apartment that your parents pay for, drive a car that they bought you, and use a credit card that they pay for. What's the difference between that and what Anita had with me? She yelled, "My parents don't want me to have sex with them." I answered quietly, "Neither did I." I thought she would keep her word on the loans she signed. Brooklyn was so angry that she was shaking. "You thought you owned her because you bought her things?" "No, I think she owes me money because she signed contracts indicating she would pay me back if we broke up." Brooklyn slapped the cover of her notepad shut. "It's time to end this talk. You're obviously too toxic and controlling to recognize what you're doing. But karma is real, and you will receive what you deserve." She ran to her folks' Honda Civic and peeled out. Diego was smiling from ear to ear as I went back inside. "Man, it was amazing. She brought notes to fight with you." Robert J. Bobby, a lawyer, sent an email on Friday morning with the subject line, "Urgent cease harassment of Miss Anita Vance." Bobby's email was a complete mess. A lot of scary talk about predatory lending and financial coercion, but no real legal substance. Ordered me to stop all collection activities right away and give Miss Vance back her access to money. I sent it to Mr. Phils, my lawyer, who had been in charge of my business contracts for years. This guy has the intensity of a man who has been sued by his own HOA and won the deed. He quickly and brutally answered. He provided Bobby copies of all the loan agreements with Anita's signatures on them, as well as bank records showing all the transfers. His letter said something like, "Your client signed valid contracts and got something of value in return. The loans are real and can be enforced." Diego read Bobby's email over my shoulder. "This guy says he is a lawyer. I've seen better legal arguments in the comments on YouTube." At the same time, the effects were hitting Anita hard. During a networking event, her BMW was taken back from the gallery parking lot. Russell apparently tried to step in and remind the repo guys that he was in charge and they needed to show some respect. They told him he had to move or go to jail. Anita had to start taking Ubers everywhere, which was costing Russell money. I started looking into Russell after I heard about him. Russell was actually a mid-level real estate agent who pretended to be a big-time developer. He had a lot of pictures on Instagram of luxury cars that weren't his and job sites where he was probably simply showing them off. A classic fake-it-till-you-make-it person. Russell, on the other hand, seemed to be all in on being the white knight. He began writing on social media about males who use money to dominate women and standing up for what is right. Diego's response to Russell's Instagram. "This guy is more bogus than a $3 bill. Check out this picture. That automobile isn't even his. You can view the plates from the dealer." Brooklyn was reposting all of Russell's posts with extensive titles about toxic masculinity and violence in the economy. She used her Instagram to give daily lectures on the crimes I was supposed to have committed against women. The finest part was when Megan, Anita's sister, offered to help. She sent me a long, rambling email saying that I was ruining an innocent woman's life and that genuine men don't leave their duties. Megan's email was the height of entitlement. "Anita spent 6 years of her life with you. She was the right companion for you and helped your career. You owe her for the work she did for you and the chances she gave you." I sent Diego Megan's email. He answered right away. "Emotional work? What comes next? Making you pay to breathe the same air?" But Brooklyn wasn't done fighting for what she believed in. She set up what she dubbed a support circle for Anita. Basically, a group of her grad school classmates who would sit around and agree with each other's stories of being victims. They made a private Facebook page called Supporting Survivors of Financial Abuse, where they posted articles about economic domestic violence and screenshots of my threatening debt collection letter. The corporation that manages the property confirmed the date of Anita's eviction. She had a month to leave the residence. Russell seemed to be promising to get her something even better, but given how much money he really had compared to how he acted on Instagram, it didn't seem likely. When we set up a time for her things to be picked up, the real fun began. I hired neutral movers again and had Bobby watch them to make sure she only took her own things. This time, though, Anita brought the whole gang. Russell, Megan, Brooklyn, and a guy Megan said was her business partner. Brooklyn came with a banner that said, "Financial abuse is domestic violence. and she started streaming the whole event live on Instagram. Diego wasn't able to come on the moving day. He had a job. But when I told him about the sign that Brooklyn was holding up, he went crazy. She put up a sign. What comes next? A megaphone. Moving day was supposed to be easy. Anita takes her things, departs my property, and we never see each other again. But nothing is ever easy when you're dealing with crazy, spoiled people and a wannabe activist with a smartphone. The crew got there about 10 a.m. Brooklyn started her Instagram commentary right away. We're here to record the continual financial abuse of a poisonous man who thinks he owns women. Russell tried to take charge by telling the movers that he was the new boss and that they would be carrying more things than what was on the list. Billy, the head mover, glanced at Bobby and questioned, "Is this clown allowed to make decisions?" Bobby said that only things on the list that had already been approved may be taken away. Russell's face turned red. "That's not right. Anita has lived here for a long time." Brooklyn began to videotape Russell's short speech. "This is what we've been talking about. The patriarchal idea that males get to choose what women deserve." Anita began her act at that time. She walked around the room and pointed at everything as if she were running an auction. "I picked up this bookcase just for my art books. That desk was for my schoolwork. Billy didn't want it. If it's not on my list, it doesn't leave this apartment, ma'am." Billy's phone got in Brooklyn's face. "Sir, you are committing economic violence on a woman." Billy just looked at her. "I think you should back off before I contact the police, lady." Megan chose to take things to the next level. "This is stealing. You're stealing from a woman who spent 6 years with this man." 6 years of her life? I responded, "You mean 6 years of me paying for her life?" Brooklyn turned around with her phone. "That's him, the financial abuser." "I'm not breaking anything," I responded quietly. "I'm collecting on a real debt." "Relationships don't have debt," Brooklyn said into her phone. "Love isn't transactional." "You're right," I answered. "Love isn't transactional, but loans are. That's literally what makes them loans." Russell stepped forward like he was going to intimidate me. This guy was maybe 5 feet 8 inches and looked like he'd never been in a real fight in his life. "You need to step back and let us handle this situation." I almost laughed. "Handle what situation? You can't even handle your own car payments based on your credit report." Oh yeah, I'd run a credit check on Russell. Credit score of 580. 3 late car payments in the last 6 months. Maxed out credit cards. Brooklyn was practically hyperventilating. "You ran a credit check? That's stalking. It's public information," I said. "Anyone can run a credit check with basic personal details." "You're a predator," she shrieked. That's when Anita completely lost it. She started screaming about how I was destroying her life out of spite and how Russell is twice the man you'll ever be. She grabbed the custom bookshelf and tried to drag it toward the door. Billy stepped in. Anita's credit was now flagged with a $115,000 outstanding debt. She couldn't get approved for an apartment lease, a car loan, or even a decent credit card. Russell, it turns out, was living in a studio apartment and driving a leased Honda with 3 months of back payments. His developer lifestyle was completely fake. When Anita moved in with him, his landlord immediately served them both with eviction notices for violating the single occupancy lease. The art world drama reached a whole new level when Anita started telling people I was holding her hostage with fraudulent debt. But Phil's had been proactive. He'd sent copies of all loan agreements to her former internship coordinator, along with a formal notice that any defamatory statements would result in additional legal action. Her reputation in the local art scene was getting destroyed. Gallery directors started warning each other about the intern who created toxic drama and made false abuse allegations. A week later, I swung by a gallery showing one of my clients was sponsoring. Wasn't planning a revenge drop-in just like the artist. But the second I walked in, there she was, Anita, standing under a pretentious LED sculpture, fake laughing. It was awkward for her. A curator I knew nodded at me and said under his breath, "Appreciate the heads up, that could have been a disaster." Then, like clockwork, Brooklyn appeared behind a twisted steel piece, like a cursed NPC. "What are you doing here?" she yelled. "Enjoying the art," I responded. You should try it sometime. You are not welcome here. Fraud isn't either. Yet here you are, loud as ever. She looked around. 2 guests were clearly watching. No live stream this time. No phone in her hand. Just silence and uncomfortable acrylic lighting. I stayed 10 more minutes, complimented the artist, made small talk with a few sane people. On the way out, I caught Anita fake laughing a little louder to no one in particular. Like she was still trying to sell the illusion, but the gallery was already done buying it. Brooklyn's activism backfired spectacularly. Her live stream videos got reported for harassment. Her Instagram account got suspended. And someone posted her parents' address online with a note about trust fund babies pretending to be oppressed. Her parents apparently had a conversation with her about representing the family appropriately and cut off her fund money. The final nail in the coffin came when Megan tried to start a GoFundMe for Anita's recovery from financial abuse. She raised $180 before someone reported it for fraud. Brooklyn shared it with a long caption about mutual aid for survivors, but even her grad school friends could see through the obvious scam. Brooklyn transferred to a different graduate program after her advisor apparently had concerns about her professional judgment and social media presence. The debt collection is ongoing. Phil set up automatic credit reporting. So every month, Anita's credit score drops a little more. She'll either have to pay up eventually or declare bankruptcy, which would destroy any chance of ever working in the professional art world. 3 months later, I thought this whole saga was finally over. I'd moved back into my own place and was focused on work. Then came the final confrontation. It was a Friday night and Diego was over at my place. We were playing Call of Duty when my doorbell rang around 9 p.m. Pickles immediately started barking. I looked through the peephole. Anita standing there looking like she'd been living rough. Yo, it's your psycho ex. I told Diego. No, let her in. I want to watch this train wreck. I opened the door and Anita immediately pushed past me into my apartment like she still lived there. We need to talk. She screamed. You ruined my entire life. You need to leave. We have nothing to discuss. I'm homeless because of you. Russell dumped me. My sister won't let me stay at her place anymore. I'm living in my car. Diego paused the game and turned around. Oh damn. This is live entertainment. Anita spun around and glared at him. This isn't funny. Your brother destroyed my life over money and he gave you 6 years of free rent, free car, free everything. Diego shot back. What's the problem? The problem is that he's making me pay him back $115,000. Should have thought about that before you signed the contracts, I said calmly. I never thought we'd break up. Those contracts were just formalities. I did love you. Then you dumped me via text for another guy. Actions have consequences. That's when she completely lost it. Started screaming about how Russell dumped her when the eviction notice came. How her sister Megan said she could only stay for a week. How Brooklyn wasn't returning her calls. You turned everyone against me. My credit is ruined. No one will rent to me. You're problematic because you tried to steal furniture and claimed I was financially abusing you. I said, that's not my fault. Diego was having the time of his life. Your ex is having a full meltdown because she found out actions have consequences. Shut up. This is between me and him. Actually, this is my apartment and you're trespassing. I told him to leave. I won't leave until you let me go. I can't give it back. I'm at a coffee shop. That's when Diego took out his phone. Okay, this situation seems unstable. 9/11. Yeah. Hi. I've got an unstable person at my brother's apartment. She's screaming, refusing to leave, and making threats. Anita's eyes went wide. You called the cops? 2 cops showed up about 10 minutes later. Both looked like they had dealt with domestic drama before. What seems to be the situation here? The first officer asked. This woman is my ex-fiancée, I explained calmly. She's trespassing in my apartment and refusing to leave. I'm not making a scene, Anita screamed, which immediately proved my point. The second officer looked at her. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to lower your voice. He let me in, and when you were asked to leave, did you leave? I can't leave. He's ruining my life. The officers looked at each other. This was clearly not their first crazy ex-girlfriend call. Ma'am, this sounds like a civil matter. What we have here is a trespassing situation. You need to leave this apartment immediately, but he's financially abusing me. Diego couldn't help himself. Officer. She broke up with him via text after 6 years, then tried to keep all the stuff he bought her. Now she's mad that he wants his loans repaid. Ma'am, you need to leave now or we'll have to escort you out. This isn't fair. I have nowhere to go. That's not this gentleman's problem. The first officer said, You have 2 choices. Leave on your own or in handcuffs. Fine. But this isn't over. I'll find a way to fight this. As the officers escorted her toward the door, she started screaming. You're a monster. The door shut. Diego farted. No one said anything. We just went back to the game. That was the most entertaining Friday night I've had in years. He muttered. Your ex just got dragged off like a screeching possum. The next morning, I went to the courthouse and filed for a restraining order. Cited the trespassing, the refusal to leave, the threats, and the general unhinged behavior. The judge approved it without hesitation. Anita now legally has to stay at least 100 yards away from me, my home, and my workplace. If she violates it, she goes to jail. Do I feel bad about how it ended? Not even a little bit. She made her choices and now she gets to live with the consequences. The next weekend, Diego came over with a couple of drinks and an idea. You know what this situation calls for? He said, gesturing toward the garage. A victory lap. I looked at him. You want to take the Impala out? Damn right I do. We just watched 6 years of finally get flushed down the toilet. He had a point. 20 minutes later, we pulled the cover off the '67 Impala. She looked as beautiful as ever. Diego slid into the passenger seat. Pickles hopped into the back and I fired her up. That V8 growl echoed through the garage. We pulled out onto the street and I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Pure, uncomplicated happiness. No drama, no contracts, no entitled people demanding things they didn't earn. You know, Diego said, 6 months ago, you were engaged to someone who wanted you to sell this car. You can now drive it whenever you want. That's not simply missing a bullet, man. That's dodging a whole artillery barrage. He was right. If I'd married Anita, the Impala would probably be gone by now, sold for something useful, eco-friendly, and boring. Instead, it remains safe in my garage, ready for the next adventure. That's all, Reddit.